Hello, everybody. If you're new here, then welcome. And if you've been here before, then welcome back. If you've made it here today, then that's awesome. You're in the right place. And I love coming to see you guys every day. You know, this is where I make my connection because I'm a lonely guy and I feel isolated pretty well most of the time. Anyway, anyway, excuse me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Clayton. I'm a recovering drug addict. I've been clean and sober since February 21st, 2021. And actually, something that I haven't said in any of my other videos, that I'm also a Canadian citizen. And who would love to see you all in person. Okay, just get on with it. Spirituality in action. Understanding and embracing the steps and traditions is important for all of us, but we must use what we learn, or it is no value. When we engage in selfless service, we find that all of the principles we have come to love and learn are called upon. It isn't easy to get out of our own way, but that is precisely what frees us from our self-made prisons. Sometimes it is clear that we need to change or we are in trouble. At other times, we are free to stay where we are, but it might mean selling ourselves short. There are many actions we can take when we need to change, but the simplest ones are often the most important. When we give to others, we get out of our own way enough to get a different perspective on our lives. Strangely, the most unselfish things we do are often the most rewarding. Selfless service is service to our higher power and a fellow human beings and ourselves. When we are part of the process, we see a greater power working through us to make a difference in other people's lives. When we feel it upon sorry, when we see it happen, we have a harder time denying its reality. We start out in survival mode and come to live a life beyond our dreams. Even though we have heard it said in meetings for years, it can still be a surprise when our world opens. And sometimes that can be very frightening. There are moments when life opens up before us, when so many options that it seems strangely empty. We who have chosen among had options for years, often and often find that too many choices can make us really uncomfortable. We must come to terms with our own resistance in order to make a commitment to the program. We may be scared to make that leap. There is no way of knowing where it will take us. We can be afraid to want things too badly because it seems selfish, or because we fear they will be taken from us. And another member shared, I believed it was unacceptable out for me. No, sorry. I believed it was unacceptable to fail, and I believed I was a failure. So there really was no out for me. I needed tools to survive, and my own humanity doesn't all come at once. Thank goodness for that. The truth is, if we went all the way through that process at one time, we might not survive it. Accepting our freedom is a massive act of spiritual courage, a member shared. Early in recovery, someone told me I was first time had life had been passing me by, mostly because I couldn't see myself in it. And it gave me the spirit to be courageous about life again, to just go out and live our dreams and wishes can be a form of guidance. That fleeting glimpses might not be where we are actually going, but it may set the course for our journey. When we are willing to move forward our dreams, we end up living well beyond them. I was afraid that if I got what I wanted, there wouldn't be anything left for me to do in recovery. One member confessed, meeting our goals is not the end of the story. The end of the journey toward a goal is often the beginning of a new phase in our lives. Many of us are used to being driven by cities' calamity. It can take practice to learn to be motivated by something other than pain. Being willing to step out and act because something feels right to us before a few kind of t- feels right to us takes a new kind of trust. Just as I struggled to list my assets in my first 4 step, I struggled to list my goals and the things I enjoy. Now, one member said, we transform need into desire and obsession into determination. When we become willing to accept what it really means to set ourselves free, we are in for quite a ride. After years of recovery, we can look back at the work we have done and be grateful and satisfied. And we can see the terrible gaps in it as well. There is a moment in our lives when we may recognize how much of that work has been in service to that belief that if we do the right things, we will get what we want. When we realize what we have been seeking is not conscious contact but a constant comfort, we are appalled. Does this mean that my relationship with my higher power is false? Is my recovery a life that somehow that spirituality awakenings are also rude awakenings? We also clearly, and what we see may be alarming. When we awaken to the darkness within ourselves, it hurts. The first time I looked inside and saw the truth about some of the things I had done, said one member, I thought that was the truth about me. I was terrified. I thought, I've been given the opportunity to see all this grace around me, only to be shown it wasn't for me. The ability to change our assumptions about the world is one of the most important freedoms we have because it enables us to see alternatives we couldn't imagine before. We disguised our low self esteem as lack of interest in the world around us and saw our lives as a narrow path between bad alternatives. I saw myself as an obstacle to God's will, said another member. I remember to, as an outside, uh, um, our relationship to our higher power has suffered a lot of damage in our addiction, and it can be one of the hardest to amend. We know that indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles is very dangerous for us. Sometimes we develop a different kind of intolerance after we have been clean for a while. We may develop a set of beliefs in recovery and resist anything that seems to threaten them or call them into question. But this is precisely the way that we know about the truth can be revised. The truth is not what changes, it's what we know about it. How truth is, how how truth is not what changes, it's what we know about it. How we understand it. As we get closer to the truth, we come to understand that it cannot hurt us, even if it's painful in the moment. A member shared, letting go of old beliefs was hard because I didn't really know what I believed to begin with. The work we do in the steps can help us figure out what we believe and whether our beliefs still work for us. I used to feel embarrassed, strange, and empty when I prayed, another member admitted. My traditional my I used to feel embarrassed, strange, and empty when I prayed, another member admitted. My relationship with my God required that I had to keep praying through the times when I didn't feel anything. It took a long time for it to become natural to me. Being willing to keep trying when it feels hard or when it doesn't feel like anything at all. It is an act of faith. We get we get we get through these difficult times by having a daily spiritual practice. The habit carries us through until the feelings change. We have faith in the experience of our fellow members that somehow this practice will or is going to help. Willingness to step out and try a relationship with a higher power can be powerful, but we may hesitate in the beginning. We put a toe in the water first. We may struggle with prayer and meditation for a long time before we feel something engage. One member shared, we may struggle something else. One member shared, I experimented with different practices for 7 years before I found the right grace in the right place. Finding the path of my spirituality was like finding shoes that fit. Another member shared that she was so resistant to prayer that her sponsor resorted to extremes. Put your basic text on one side of the room, sit on the other side, and reach one hand. Oh, sorry. um, Put your basic text on one side of the room, sit on the other side, and reach out your hand, said the sponsor. You have just prayed. However, we do it. Prayer is an act of reaching out for something and conflicts it. However, we do it. Prayer is an act of reaching out for help and connection. It is an act of humility and honesty. And for some of us, it is the first honest or humble action we take. We can be much more comfortable in an old rut and on a new plateau. We usually don't notice that we're stuck until we have been there for a while, and by then it's hard to break free. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable if we don't want to stay stuck. Trying something new can be its own surrender. It can be very difficult to allow ourselves to experience our freedom, as an addict admits. "I'm a creature of habit," said one member. "The third time I'm in a restaurant, I ordered the usual. Our comfort was habit. Habits makes it easier to stay in a routine. Fear of the disease sometimes makes us afraid to step too far out on a limb, lest we find ourselves in danger. Trying out new perspectives, new beliefs, and new experiences can all be part of a living spirituality. Our certainty can keep us from the humility we so desperately need. Open mindedness is a cornerstone of our recovery, and that includes being open minded about our own program. When we stop being teachable, we are in trouble. Too often we create too often we create barriers where guideposts are more appropriate. when when we build walls instead of pathways. We don't just keep new possibilities out, we lock ourselves into old ways, being being we don't just keep new possibilities out. We lock ourselves into old ways of seeing and thinking about the world. It is easy to get caught in our own trap. This way, when we finally find some relief, we want to hold on to it. As that relief grows into joy and gratitude, it becomes more precious to us. We can be so afraid to lose what we have gained that we hold ourselves back from growth. We may believe there is only one way for NA to work, and that's the way it has worked for us so far. When a certain practice or way of losing has saved us our lives, we may refuse to deviate from it. That grit and resolve can save our lives. And it can be really useful when we are carrying the message as well. But with that hard edge comes the risk that we will simply become stubborn and close minded, excluding members who don't do it the way we do. When we think we know exactly what the program has to offer, we don't leave the room for it to grow, or for us to continue to grow within it. Even worse, when the time comes that we need something more, we have convinced ourselves that it won't be available through NA. Our willingness to share our ongoing experience in recovery knows our willingness to share our ongoing experience in recovery helps our groups to experience the same growth and renewal that we do as individuals. We have many beginnings throughout our recovery. Early on, we learn that we can begin our day again at any time. As we progress, we learn that we can always begin a new journey in recovery, and we can start over whenever we need to. We don't need to blow up our lives to get a fresh start. We may think we are done when in fact we are just getting started. When NA has given us all we have asked for, that's the beginning of a new story for us, a new chapter. The achievement of our goals is new beginnings on our journey, and as the journey continues, as well as well. Sorry, I lost my spot. um, just because we've used them already doesn't mean it's time to turn them in. And we will leave it there for today. The next section will be a conscious contact. So, thank you all for joining me today. That section was on spirituality in action. For those of you who may have the Living Clean book, that's page 67, 67 to 72. It's not even that many pages, and still, it's like, so one thing that bugs me the most, oh, look, the camera's over here, I'm looking over there. That's one thing that bugs me the most is that, I get like halfway through and, and it's like, I start losing my focus, or I start losing where I am on the page, and but there is no giving up in my vocabulary, and I appreciate every one of you. I look forward to seeing you again real soon, and hit like and subscribe, and keep coming back, and we'll stay clean and sober another day together. Okay, take care, everybody.